Well, I
Okay.
am here with Kyla Jacobsen. Kyla has a um, long and robust career in water, and she now talks about herself as a training specialist. Kyla, it's good to be with you this morning.
Good to be with you too, Frank.
So, Kyla, give us a little bit about your background, how you got in, and how you got into water. Just
Okay. Well, first of all, you'll note I'm wearing my water shirt. I wear
yes, you
water
are.
shirts all the time, especially when I do training. I didn't even think about it this morning that I put this shirt on. But anyway, I actually fell into water by accident.
Hmm.
My goal was to go to med school, not to be a water person.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of education and never got into med school. I had great grades. Finally, I just said, "Ugh, I can't take it anymore. I need to get a job. I need to get away from school." So I actually went to work for in the pharmaceutical industry initially, and I worked there about a year, and I met my now husband there, and we started getting serious. And I said, unlike people that have relationships with people at work, I couldn't do that. I said, I can't work with you and live with you and all that other stuff. So I said, I'm going to find a new job. And I actually answered an ad for a chemist at our local city.
Hmm.
And I'm like, chemist, what does the city want a chemist for? Of course, I had been working in a pharmaceutical industry, so I'm thinking, oh, police, forensics, drugs, that's what I was thinking. So I applied because it's
Sure.
interesting. This was in my head, of course. And I got a call for an interview, and it was for a chemist in their water laboratory. And I'm like, okay, I mean, chemistry is chemistry, bench chemistry, didn't matter.
Mhm.
So I got a job working in the water lab, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I loved it so much. So I was a bench chemist for a while. Then I became the chief chemist. And basically, what that meant was I was still doing bench chemistry, but then I was in charge of all the regulatory stuff and making sure all of our reports and
Mhm.
everything got submitted in a timely fashion. And while I was doing that, just it fascinated me so much. I actually went back to school and got a master's degree in engineering, in environmental engineering, because I loved it. I sort of, after being in the water field for about 2 years, I kind of took it as a personal crusade to try to get other people interested in the water industry. So, literally for 40 years, I've been talking to school kids. I give presentations in the community just to get people interested in jobs in water. I eventually became the utility director. So I was in charge of the plant, the lab, the distribution system. We did stormwater, sewer, and drinking water. And I held that position for 13 years. And then I eventually retired
Hmm.
as the utility director. And then now I work for the American Water Works Association, which is basically a professional organization
That's
for the water and wastewater industry as a trainer.
mhm. So talk about that. You call yourself a training specialist. Why don't you talk a little bit about it? It's a transition, and I can understand it because I did a lot of training in my latter part of my technology career. So why don't you talk about being a training specialist?
Um, a training specialist. So I was approached by the American Water Works Association. Actually, I do a lot of training for the Illinois section of the American Water Works Association. And then I was approached by the association in Denver, and they were looking to start a training arm of their organization. And basically, I mean, they kind of picked on some recently retired utility executives because we had a broad range of experience, but we also had the time to devote. And we're sort of like part time on call, we're not full time employees. Um, and it kind of works in my retired schedule. But I do operator training for operators that are looking to gain certifications. I do training for our primary goal through AWWA is for small systems. And there's a big need. People think about global water crisis and countries that don't have great water technology and all kinds of things. But we also have that happening right here in the US. We have small systems that don't know what they don't know, that are having difficulty with compliance and don't have the financial resources to be able to get into compliance. They also may only have one operator. So it's not like they could send the operator to some training course. So by us offering these training opportunities, now what we've been doing for the last 2 years has been doing them virtually. Maybe someday we'll go back to doing them in person, but the virtual works really well, especially for small systems, because they don't have to take time away from their duties as in their water facility to be able to attend training. And we do training on water loss, how to prevent it and how to minimize it. We talk about cybersecurity. We talk about finances and rate setting. So there's a variety of topics. And then, as I said, also the certification readiness that I do for operators.
So, and Mary and I have had a conversation. I understand that you have an interest in the harmful algae blooms or doing something
I
in that area.
do.
Could you
Yeah.
talk about
So,
that?
in my role with my previous, my role in the water utility, we were plagued. Okay, back up. We took our water from a river,
Mhm.
and we had not only river issues, but we also had um, lake issues because our river was an outfall of a chain of lakes.
Mhm.
And I used to say we got the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. And algae blooms don't typically happen in rivers with free flowing streams, but they become issues in lakes that have seasonal turnover. And so we were plagued with taste and odor issues when we had our spring turnover because water is more dense at around 40 degrees. So when we get to that temperature, that water on top would settle to the bottom, and then all the nasty crap that's been there all winter
Mhm.
would float to the surface. And then that's when you get these algae blooms. We get them in the spring and we get them in the fall. And of course, it imparted taste and odor problems. So we had, community issues that we had to deal with. And because of the cyanobacteria and all these other harmful algae that occurred, we were very much on top of that. I did a lot of research in harmful algae blooms. I did a lot of work on, people say, well, how do you prevent that? Well, boy, if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be a multi-gajillionaire, because we can't predict it. We can't prevent it. It's about managing them and preventing the algal toxins from being an issue. So that was a big part of what I did when I worked in my utility. As I said, I was in the laboratory for 19 of my 30, almost 33 years at my utility, and algae was a big part of that, unfortunately, because of our water source. So, and it's something that's, and like I said, it plagues mostly lakes.
Yeah.
Rivers are not typically subject to that, except we were sort of a unique situation because our river was an outfall of a chain of lakes. So we got those algal blooms in the seasonal issues. So it's something that's still very interesting to me, very near and dear to my heart, and I keep on top of it.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, you touched on a little bit of maybe I can't remember what you said, but something like you were teaching youth or dealing with youth and water. I mean, did I hear that? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to reach out to scouting groups or school groups and get in front of these kids to tell them what great opportunities there are in the water field. Because unlike, like me, I didn't grow up saying, hey, when I grow up, I want to work in the water industry.
Yeah.
But now that I'm here, it's an amazing career, and I want kids to understand what's out there. I participate in a lot of career fairs at middle school and high school level, just to get kids exposed to the opportunities in water. And I know of like 3 kids that I have impacted that now work in the industry, and I think that's really cool.
That's very cool. Of course, with the retiring workforce, and we all need to work together to get young people, the next generation, into water and
Absolutely.
connected with and into water from a management perspective. So you've been a part of Global Waterworks community since it looks like October of 2018, quite a while. Um,
Yeah.
how do you find the community and what value does it bring to you?
Yeah, I've been around, boy, almost since its inception.
That's
I
right.
knew Mary very well, and she's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about, getting this thing off the ground. What do you think?" And I said, "Hey, sign me up. I'll participate wherever I can or however I can." So I am just amazed at how Global Waterworks has grown.
Mhm.
To me, it's just a community of experts. And that's one thing that I really, really pushed when I was new in the water industry. Like I said, I didn't have a water background when I first came to water. And there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. And a lot of times, water people don't know to reach out to other water people. But we're very unique in our industry is that we're not in competition with other people. So my utility wasn't in competition with the utility in the neighboring town. We're not, because the neighboring town isn't, you know, I'm not looking to take their customers, you know what I mean? So it's a unique situation in the fact that we're not in competition.
Mhm.
So therefore, the opportunity for spreading information and sharing information is so wide. If you're in private industry, you're not going to share your company secrets because then the next company is going to take them and, make a better widget. But we don't do widgets. We
Right.
are into public health, and being able to maximize our knowledge is absolutely wonderful. And that's what Global Waterworks is all about. It's about maximizing the knowledge and getting people together in the room, so to speak, whether it be virtual or real, to be able to spread the wealth of knowledge. And I have found that to be fascinating.
It's interesting that you relate to it as being in public health. That is so true. And certainly people don't really understand that because they're not connected with their water. But you're absolutely right. As
Yep.
running a utility like you did, and all of the elements of that, and all the challenge of that, you're really a huge public health deliverer, because
Right.
water disease is born from water, significant. So what are you looking as you go out here and you're retired? And I know you're in Florida and in retirement, and I'm in Georgia and I'm in retirement. Uh, what is your future? What does your future look like in water?
Wow. I want to be as connected as I can.
Mhm.
Even though I'm now 4 years retired from my municipality, um, I was so involved. Gosh, I was on every committee known to man. I volunteered where I could. I loved doing all things water, but then I retired, and I was bound and determined not to let that stop me from being involved.
Mhm.
And I'm still very involved in American Waterworks Association. I'm very involved in Global Waterworks. I love to participate in the forums and get involved in all the knowledge exchange. And so I just see the future for me is going to be a lot more of the same. I see me basically continuing in my education in water and learning as much as I can at all times, because I find it to be fascinating, and I'm I don't ever want that to go away. So
And
I think my future is just going to be a little bit more about what it is. I love also to be involved, like with Water Utility Council, and being involved with upcoming legislation. I
mm,
want to help. I mean, I'm not in a position to help drive legislation anymore because I'm retired, and
sure.
most of the time that's people that are actively working for a utility or something. But helping to get the word out about changes in legislation to enact good legislation. going back to the whole public health thing, a lot of times regulatory people or Congress may enact regulations, but they don't understand the impact to a utility.
Yeah.
And so I like to help spread the word about, yes, this is a good regulation and here's why, but there might be a better way to go about it. You know, I'm thinking of the recent lead legislation, the new lead and the lead and copper rule and the changes to that. You know, Congress came out with a new lead and copper rule, and then they put it out for public comment. They received 187,000 comments. So, yeah, and it was mostly from utilities that said, all right, this is really good legislation, but here's a better way to do it. And get some input from the utilities that actually have to, you know, make it happen.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's kind of something that I'm really into as well, you know, not just letting somebody dictate the regulations, but having an active voice in here's the reality of what's that going to look like for a water utility.
Having only really been in water for about 3 years, one of the just exciting things that I find here is people like yourself who are, whether they're still working in it, whether they're retired or whatever they're doing, people are passionate about water. And that's what keeps the public health and, you know, really keeps the whole thing moving forward. That is really terrific. Kyla, this has been great. It's great talking to you. Very special. We'll get this up on Tech Talk Thursday, and it's just wonderful. And you know, we see each other, you know, just about every other week and in prayer meeting and so forth. But it's really been great to hear about your passion and your view, your
very
passion,
passionate,
and staying in there. It's just thank you so much for this time.
All right. Well, thanks, Frank, and sorry about the confusion.
No, quite all right. It happens to me all the time. Take care.
All right. You take care too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.